Hello. So for my deeper dive video and for my research, I decided to go more into the topic of listening skills because I kind of thought that to begin with, this was more of a topic it is very important, but it's not talked about enough in society, like at all. Like I've never seen anyone specifically talk about this. And in addition to that, I kind of just thought that this could be something I can personally work on, as can everyone else, because there's always room for improvement. But, I just thought this could personally apply to me. So not only would I just be doing the research just to have the general knowledge, but I'm also going to try and apply that knowledge to my personal life. Um, and also because this is listening skills are definitely a determining factor, I would say, in like relationships, whether it's like a friendship, something with family, or like with a significant other. Like listening skills are very important to have and can be something that determine whether or not that sort of relationship continues, if that makes sense. And I actually have 5 articles and 2 peer review journals that I want to go over instead of just 3 articles, so I'm going to try and go over those as quickly as possible. So for the first article that I have, it's called How to Be a Better Listener by Adam Bryant from the New York Times. And he's worked in journalism for over 30 years, so this is his perspective on listening skills from like the professional business side of things, I guess you could say. And he just went about it in a simple way by giving do's and don'ts list for the main 5 aspects of listening skills, which those 5 aspects are being fully present, having no judgments, showing you're listening, listening to learn, and how to listen as a boss. But then in the next article called Career Coach: How to Sharpen Your Listening Skills by Jeffrey Kudish from the Washington Post. So he works in the Office of Career Services at a university. So his listening skills perspective comes from having to interview students and vice versa, and having to host like different career fairs and stuff. And he just gives 6 main pointers and then just goes into details about each of those. So those 6 main pointers being monitoring your airtime, demonstrating genuine interest and empathy, listening to learn, just like mentioned in the last article, being comfortable with silence, minimizing other bad listening skills, and enlisting a learning partner. In the third article that I have, which is called Tuning In, Improving Your Listening Skills by Sue Schellenbarger from the Wall Street Journal, she kind of goes a little all over the place in terms of her formats and how she addresses the perspective, but it all comes together in a really nice way and it all makes sense. So she starts by just addressing a few reasons why someone may tune out to begin with, and then gives a list of what to do before a conversation, like make a list of questions to ask when there's a pause in the conversation so that you're paying attention and understanding what's being said, and a list of what to do during a conversation, like taking notes to stay focused. In addition to that, she also just addressed a few statistics and addressed what some other people had to say that had careers or have careers heavily focused in being able to listen really well. In my fourth article, which is 10 Steps to Effective Listening by Diane Schilling from Forbes, she wrote a short intro about how the importance of communication is growing heavily, but also the lack of listening is also growing because we're learning to communicate over our phones instead of in person with that face-to-face contact with someone. And then she goes into the 10 steps, which are facing the speaker and keeping eye contact, being attentive but also relaxed, keeping an open mind, listen to the words and try to picture what they're saying, don't interrupt and or impose your own solutions, ask questions only to ensure understanding, try to feel what they're feeling, give speaker some feedback, and then pay attention to what isn't said, like nonverbal cues. And then in my last article, which is called What Great Listeners Actually Do by Jack Zenger and Joseph Folkman, and which is from the Harvard Business Review, they put it in a really interesting perspective, at least in my opinion, which is they put listening throughout a conversation into different steps, and there's 6 main steps. First step being The listener creates a safe environment where complex and emotional issues can be discussed. Level 2 is that the listener clears away distractions and is being 100% attentive. Level 3 is that the listener seeks to understand or capture the ideas, ask questions, restate the issues so that they're fully understanding what's being talked about. Level 4 is the listener observes nonverbal cues like facial expressions, gestures, and postures. Level 5 is that the listener understands emotions and feelings about the topic and empathizes towards the speaker in the most non-judgmental way possible. And then level 6 is simply just asking questions for clarification at the end. And then I have my 2 peer-reviewed journals, which the first one is called The Power of Listening, Lending an Ear to the Partner During Dyadic Coping Conversations from the Journal of Family Psychology. And basically this was a study where they had 365 heterosexual couples, and they had each partner and each couple have an 8-minute conversation with the other partner. Like there were 2 8-minute conversations each. And each one was about a stressful personal experience that they had. And then the other partner was just supposed to respond how they would normally respond. And by the end of this study, the results were that more attentive listening resulted in better dyadic coping behaviors and a higher relationship satisfaction overall, which can definitely loop back to what I talked about in my introduction. And then my last peer-reviewed journal is called Therapist Response to a Distressed Client, Differences in Active Listening and Changes in Negative Effect from Counseling and Psychotherapy Research, Volume 17. And in this study, they had 71 psychotherapists watch a video of a distressed person and just respond how they would normally respond. And by the end of it, it found that therapists who reported a lower need for control in the situation were more likely to employ active listening responses. So those were all of my sources, and I just kind of want to wrap this up by saying, looking into this topic and having all 7 of these sources definitely opened my eyes to different perspectives on listening skills, and definitely opened my eyes to the fact that it's a lot more looked into and researched about than I thought it was, just not on like social media or anything. It's just kind of like strictly like educational research sort of thing. And yeah, all the different perspectives like to-do lists and do's and don'ts, and there's the levels and all those different things I just thought was really cool. And this relates back to human sexuality because obviously, like, let's say you're in a relationship, like a significant other relationship, and you need to have a conversation with them about something in regards to like sex. Obviously the conversational part of that, or like the communicating part of that, is very important, but I don't think we've ever really addressed, like as a society, that the listening aspect of that is just as important and should be taught more about. Because otherwise, if the partner feels like their other partner isn't listening to them when they're communicating, that's a big issue. But yeah, so thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed learning about this research that I did. If you have any questions or comments, let me know.